Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the FhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and today we get to really start talking about the offseason as the Dolphins executed a potentially big trade Monday evening. The team has acquired a top-level draft selection from just last season, and he's well under the age of 25, and they got him for pennies on the dollar. We're going to be talking about former Georgia Bulldog Isaiah Wilson and his potential fit with the Dolphins. We'll also get into what the move could be signaling regarding Chris Grier's future plans for Miami and what the Dolphins front office is planning to do come free agency and draft time. As always, be sure to take a moment and hit that subscribe button wherever it is you're listening. Be sure to like the video if you're watching on YouTube and follow us if you're listening on Spotify. Make sure you're connecting with us on all platforms just to make sure you never miss a thing. So that's FhinsPod, at FhinsPod on TikTok and Instagram. All right, what are we waiting for? Let's dive in.
Tennessee Titans at number 29 take an offensive lineman, Isaiah Wilson, out of Georgia.
This is very surprising. It is a need for them. And so obviously this is one in which when you look at John Robinson, the general manager, and Mike Vrabel, they must have him graded much higher than I do or some of the other offensive line coaches I talked to in the league. I had one tell me today they had a fourth-round grade on Wilson. So this is surprising to me. However, it is a need given the fact that Conklin now is no longer there. But bottom line, I don't know that this past year he had as good of a year as 2 years ago. But again, everyone's value chart at this point in time in the draft is usually a little bit different. And so even though it fills a need, there may be some development needed here.
So Ian Rappaport first reported Monday night that the Dolphins had traded for Isaiah Wilson, an offensive lineman from the Tennessee Titans. Wilson was the other bookend tackle coming out of college for the Georgia Bulldogs during their run with Jake Fromm. So when they were competing against Tua, making those national championship runs, always falling a little short there with Jake Fromm, that's where Isaiah Wilson was holding the line down. It included top 5 pick of the Giants, Andrew Thomas, as well as current Dolphin and 2020 draft pick, Solomon Kindley. Coming out of Georgia, people really thought maybe he should have stayed one more year, potentially would have been taken in the top 10, coming out with all the physical tools that he has. But, it's no surprise a lot of players leave early, again, just to make that money. There's no point staying if you're not getting paid. So remember, when the Titans took him at 29th overall, which was just one pick before the Dolphins snagged Noah Igbenogany, the Titans had lost Jack Conklin in free agency to the Browns, so they had a void at right tackle that they needed to fill, and their plan was for that to be Wilson. So they didn't take him as some developmental guy in the first round. You don't take developmental guys in the first round. He was taken to be your starting right tackle from day one. However, things did not work out at all. Just ask any Titans fan. And this wasn't an Eric Flowers situation, really, though. It wasn't that Wilson looked completely out of his depth on the field or really vulnerable to, athletic defensive ends with an explosive first step or a really strong swim move. No, Wilson barely saw the field at all for the Tennessee Titans. He played just 3 snaps, and they were all just kneel down, so he really never got any meaningful reps in the NFL. Nothing tangible in terms of things you can learn from and develop from or even assess. So fans who are saying he's a bust, that's purely based on these things that happened off the field because there's no way to know if he can play at the NFL level. We just haven't seen it. And it's really just issues not relating to football. And Wilson had many of those in his time following the NFL draft. Not a lot coming out of college. His character was pretty clean. There were no issues. He was a pretty hard worker coming out of high school, at Georgia, no red flags. So it was surprising that following the NFL draft, we saw a string of some incidents. So last summer, he was caught partying just before camp at the height of the pandemic nationwide. Look, not a smart move for a guy about to enter his first season in the NFL. And for context, look, he was 21 years old during all these transgressions. 21 years old, a virtual child. So yes, in any other year, getting caught partying at your alma mater or with your college buddies because you're a millionaire now, not a big deal. I think most 21-year-olds would do that if given that opportunity. It's just that because of the situation, the spotlight was shining a lot brighter. And I think a lot of that needs to be taken into account here. He did do some things that were really bad, and we're going to get into that. But all of these things that have been piled on, just sort of a character assassination, I just think these are sort of little pieces that built to a bigger picture, a picture that we're going to unpack here. So he did get into that real trouble in September. So after, in the summer, partying a little bit too much, he did get in trouble in September when he was caught doing donuts at an intersection drunk. A bad, bad look. No bueno. And look, we're not fans of drunk driving here at the FhinsPod, but again, it's not a football issue, potentially a larger issue, something more important than football, but still something that's not related to between the hashes, what goes down on the field. And he was then suspended by the Titans for breaking those team rules in December as well, so he had other issues. And then he was caught partying on New Year's Eve after he had already just gotten into hot water a few months prior. So again, bad decisions. Yes, he was kind of down and out with the team. He never really got his footing there. So you understand why a guy would beat himself up, especially someone that young with all that pressure. But again, not a good look that you couldn't stand to the rigors, especially at this level. And then the last thing that happened, and this pretty much was the cherry on top and really sealed the deal there. Things were just not going well, obviously, between him and the Titans organization. Neither the coaches, the front office, or the fan base were frankly happy, and this bled into Wilson's own view of the situation and his own view of how he felt about being on the team. He tweeted last month, "I'm done with football as a Titan. No further comments." That tweet was then deleted, but hey man, he was not wrong. He is no longer going to be playing football for the Tennessee Titans. So what did Miami give up to take a flyer on this potentially problem child with some really great physical tools? Well, this is where the deal starts to look really, really good for the Dolphins. For Isaiah Wilson, Miami swapped 7th round picks. Yep, that's it. So Miami essentially gave up nothing. They mortgaged time. So specifically what I mean by that is Miami sent the Tennessee Titans their 7th rounder this year. So that way it's like, hey, we understand that you're giving us a player. You're losing a potential valuable, depth piece. So here's a 7th rounder this year just to give you that extra sort of potential, hey, scratch lottery ticket. But then it's not like that's, that's it. Like we gave that up and we get Wilson. No, because next year, Miami's going to be receiving the Tennessee Titans 2022 7th round pick. So they won't have their 7th round pick next year. So essentially, they're mortgaging that 7th round pick to get it now. So we get Wilson. So really, in essence, in 2 years, we gave up nothing to get a guy who was taken in the first round less than 12 months ago. So, when you consider, the top 30 value of him as a player, what are the Dolphins getting in Wilson? Now, let's ignore the fact that the value's great. Yes, Chris Grier, Fleecin GMs in the NFL. He continues to do it. But what type of player is Isaiah Wilson? What are we really getting? Look, as a prospect, physically, he has the body of a tackle. 6'6" and change, 350 plus pounds, yet he is super nimble and really athletic. Essentially the embodiment of that stereotype we hear all the time, the dancing bear. He has long arms, a wide base, and is really powerful. Undoubtedly a really gifted athlete who has all the makings to be a starting tackle in the NFL. And look, we're going to be optimistic here. Let's project favorably for a second. If Miami is able to help Wilson get right, and this fresh start enables him to focus on what he does best, then the Dolphins have just upgraded their line. Because even if he doesn't start, right? So even if we're being optimistic and he doesn't become what he could be, considering he was taken 29 overall less than a year ago, but even so, and the team continues to stick at tackle with Robert Hunt or even Jesse Davis, Wilson will be an upgrade at swing tackle, no doubt. Better than Julian Davenport, no doubt. However, he can even be better than that. That's the hope. Hunt and Jesse Davis were not taken 29th overall for a reason. Damn good players, especially Robert Hunt showing out really well. Jesse Davis has shown to be a valuable guy in this league, has shown that he belongs, despite a lot of people have wanted to throw him out onto the streets for years, but he sticks around and he's really earned, a spot on an NFL roster. But he wasn't taken 29th overall, and there's a reason for that. And if Isaiah Wilson's able to hit, it's because of what those tools suggest. It's why he was taken so high. He's an athletic lineman who can pull all the way from the tackle position. That's how quick he is off his feet. That's how agile he is for his size. A guy who can seal off the edge as well and turn defensive ends with power away from the play when he engages properly and he makes sure that, his fundamentals are done right and he's approaching the defensive end properly and he's not leaning, which occasionally he would do a little bit too much. But again, now he's only 22 years old. And this is a guy who in the screen game can be a monster. Just imagine 6'6", 365 pounds barreling down on you in the open field, especially when they're moving quick. The other thing to note is that Wilson played with Solomon Kinley at Georgia. In fact, they played next to each other. So you could see some experimentation along the offensive line in training camp and at the start of the season. And if things work out, we could see by season's end a line that looks like Austin Jackson at left tackle, maybe Solomon Kinley at guard, whoever Miami brings in at center, whether it be Lindsley from the Packers, bringing back Ted Karras as well, Robert Hunt at right guard, and then Isaiah Wilson at right tackle with Jesse Davis as your swing guy. Or you can change that up. You might want to make Solomon Kinley and Isaiah Wilson play next to each other. So you have Robert Hunt and Austin Jackson play next to each other. Regardless, this gives Miami flexibility to really play around and see, the best combination. These are top tier athletes, guys who are taken high up. Other than Ted Karras, all of these guys potentially are some of the best athletic prospects. And if coached up right, you're building a huge wall for Tua to stand behind and dice defenses up. Now look, the odds of this move working seem really low. And that's just based on the opinion of the outside world and even Titans fans. No one's calling this a steal. No one's like, oh my, well, I mean, we are, and Dolphins fans are, and the people who are kind of informed on the subject seem to be, which is good. But generally people aren't like, holy shit, we're going to look back in a year and go, how did the Dolphins get that deal? Why weren't other teams offering a fifth, a fourth, just to get a guy? This could be that move, or it's not at all, and this completely busts out. And many feel as if Wilson is essentially just a bum, and he's going to come to Miami and be the exact same as he was. And that's essentially the reason Miami got him for so cheap, because things weren't working out. His reputation was slandered through the league, and Miami just stepped up to the plate and said, we'll take a shot on him. And look, there's a reason why this could work. Brian Flores went to Poly Prep High School. It's a private high school. It's where he was recruited to play football on scholarship. So was Isaiah Wilson. Not huge, not like, oh my God, they went to the same high school. This means everything. But, and this is purely speculation, if Brian Flores is able to reach this young man and help him come back from whatever he's struggling with, because clearly no one wants to lose their career. No one really wants to derail a potentially promising future. So if Brian Flores is able to help him and sort of bring him back and be able to reach him because they're from the same place, they've had shared experiences. Flores knows exactly what Wilson is going through in a way that maybe Vrabel couldn't. Maybe other coaches in Tennessee or people around him in Tennessee couldn't. And, if that's the case, then the Dolphins just pulled off a shrewd and wise move. And in the big picture, moves like this, regardless of if it works or not, but just moves like this are exactly what you want to see from this front office. Low risk, high reward. And I say low risk because although the team will have to work with him and give up a roster spot to have Isaiah Wilson, his potential makes that worth it for reasons we have not even touched on yet. And the reasons we've touched on before, his physical tools, his overall assets as a pass blocker, as a run blocker, and what he can become if the consistency is built. But also the ramifications in terms of contract, in terms of what it allows the Dolphins to do in free agency and in the draft. There's a lot of things that moves like this let you do, this flexibility. So remember, too, the Dolphins, he's a first-round pick, so they also will have control over him if it works out for the next 4 seasons. So although he just had this one season, Miami will still have 4 more seasons because there's that 5th-year option included with first-round picks. Again, this is all very optimistic. Miami could cut him in a matter of months, so we don't know. And again, Titans fans might be listening to this and saying, bro, you're borderline living in fantasy land, and this is crazy idealistic. But hey, man, let a brother dream. Now, if we're looking at the financials, 2021, Miami owes him $1.13 million. 2022, $1.6 million. 2023, $2.18 million. Now, look, that's great value for a potentially starting level right tackle. Now, similar to a guy like Eric Flowers, Wilson also has the body to transition to the interior of the line. So like I said, flexibility. This move offers a lot of that, not just financially, but with position flexibility. He could be great inside, as his athleticism would lend itself excellently to the running game when he would be asked to pull. Like I said, he's really athletic, especially as a tackle, tend to have much better feet at that position. And playing inside, those tighter spaces will allow for his size to be a bigger factor in keeping the quarterback protected. Regardless, we do hope that the young man can turn it around and find a home here with us in Dolphins land. And look, despite his crimes and mistakes, he is 22 years old, a kid. He has every shot in the world to turn things around, and he can help this team immensely if he's able to do that. And look, now a lot of people out there feel as if, this move, the fact that the Dolphins went and got a lineman specifically, signals something regarding the Dolphins' plans and free agency, and specifically the draft. Does this acquisition of this first-round level tackle make the drafting of a guy like Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, or even Christian Darrisaw unlikely? I don't think so. Because if you think that Chris Grier and Brian Flores plan on relying on this kid who, has been kicked out of town, kicked out of Nashville, you think they're relying on him for any portion of their team's overall success in 2021, then you're out of your mind. This is exactly what we said. This is exactly what we said it was. It's a flyer, a lottery ticket, a virtual scratch-off. Miami was opportunistic here in their approach and jumped on the chance to get a potentially high-value guy for just really cheap. The risk they incur is minimal, and if they believe in the culture that they're establishing within their building, then this thing could actually end up working. But the team's not going to give up on the chance to upgrade, even when they added this piece. So if it makes sense, and Sewell is the guy there, and you can upgrade, then Sewell will be the pick. He will be the guy. And Miami may still look to pay a guy like Joe Thuney, despite having just invested another asset into that offensive line. I don't think we should look at a move like this flyer, in any greater light than what it already is. What do you guys think of the deal? Do you like the overall thinking of the front office here? Or would you rather have the team stay away from potentially problem guys? Be sure, if you're watching on YouTube, to let us in the comments below. Follow us on Instagram as well to make sure to respond here. Because personally, I'm a big fan of the move, just in the sense that I like the approach. And the risk is so low that if you don't like it, I just don't understand why. You can cut him, and it's really not an issue. And you can develop him into someone who can really contribute for this team going forward.
With the 29th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Isaiah Wilson, tackle, Georgia.
They're going beef, so that's the second offensive lineman from Georgia off the board. You saw Andrew Thomas go much earlier. Now they go guard with Isaiah Wilson. So many of those offensive linemen out of Georgia were some of the best in the country. At one point, their offensive line this season just absolutely looks massive. Mel, what do we like about Isaiah Wilson?
Yeah, 6'6", and a half, 350, huge. We talk about Mekhi Becton, how big he is. And Isaiah Wilson, not quite as light on his feet as Becton is, but as a run blocker, can be dominant driving defenders off the ball when he has the proper leverage. And again, capable of getting to the second level. Results are a little mixed at times. And pass protection, he has decent feet. Better footwork at times is needed, hand placement, pad level, all those things are coming. I thought he needed another year at Georgia. Go back, work on some things technique-wise, and maybe be a top 15 pick next year. He slides into the late first, opposite, obviously, at right tackle, opposite Andrew Thomas. DJ, when you look at Isaiah Wilson, I think another year would have really helped him. He's raw. They had Dennis Kelly there at right tackle. He can maybe challenge or be a guy that can learn from Kelly, obviously taking over for Conklin. So I think he needed another year. He's a little bit of a developmental guy, but he's got some upside.
Yeah, he's going to be the first one off the bus, though, Mel. I can promise you that. I mean, he looks like he's a wrestler. I mean, he is enormous, and we saw him move really well at the Combine. I'm with you in terms of what you see in the run game. He can displace people at the line of scrimmage. Georgia loved to run the football, but in pass protection, I thought he really struggled to sink his weight and play low, got a little bit too high. So there's some work to go with him, needs some development, but you are going to be able to pound the ball with Derrick Henry running behind him.
Well, you mentioned a wrestler. He was a wrestler. He also played lacrosse at Brooklyn Poly Prep in New York. And now Isaiah Wilson is headed to Tennessee to try and protect Ryan Tannehill and block for Derrick Henry.
Thank you guys so much for listening. That's going to do it for us here today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the FhinsPod. As always, we hope you got something out of the show. Exciting moves are being made in the front office. And oh, what I would give to be a fly on the wall in Grier's office, just to hear the negotiations between the different clubs, see what potential moves Miami could do, what's out there for the Dolphins to improve their overall team. And look, regardless of what they end up doing, we might not get it first. We don't have that inside access. We're not in Chris Grier's office, but we're going to be here to break it down. So please remember to subscribe to the show wherever it is you're listening. If you're on YouTube, like I said, we're wicked close to 1,000 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate if you helped us get there. It'd be an awesome milestone for the channel. But, even if you don't, if you're listening, thank you so much. And if you're already subscribed, Thank you. We really do appreciate it. And, it allows you just to never miss a chance to chat about your favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. Remember, the show is also available on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Continue the conversation with us on Twitter and Instagram at FhinsPod, and check out the site for news and content, PhinsPod.com. I hope you have an amazing day, and until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.